Did you know deep beneath the ocean's surface lies a network of astonishing infrastructure projects that are shaping our modern world in ways that few can imagine? From underwater tunnels connecting nations to massive pipelines and data highways spanning the seafloor. Today, we're going to look at 15 amazing infrastructure projects under the oceans. Starting with number 15. The USS Oriskany, also called the Mighty O, was deliberately sunk off Pensacola, Florida in 2006. It now rests on the ocean floor as the largest artificial reef. Commissioned in 1950, this Essex-class carrier took its name from the Battle of Oriskany in the American Revolutionary War. During service in the Korean and Vietnam Wars, it launched countless missions and provided steady air support. It was decommissioned in 1976 and it was nearly scrapped. Instead, the U.S. Navy and environmental groups chose to turn it into an artificial reef. Teams removed hazardous materials, including fuel, wiring, and asbestos, so it wouldn't harm the local marine life. Big deck, control towers, and companionways. Deeper sections test the skill of technical divers, but there are shallower areas for those with less experience, like me, and this range of depth offers something for all skill levels. Local tourism benefits from the influx of visitors, and the surrounding waters gain a thriving habitat. Its steel surfaces are slowly being covered by corals and sponges that support more biodiversity than the sandy bottom. Many now call it the Great Carrier Reef, citing it as a model for creating artificial reefs. The Oriskany story shows how an obsolete warship can serve a new purpose. What was once the platform for conflict is now a vibrant refuge for sea life. This transformation has boosted the local economy and enriched the marine ecosystem, illustrating how a single vessel can change the entire seascape. Number 14. Ocean Farm 1. The growing need for food has increased the chance of overfishing. Fish farms are an alternative, but they bring their own challenges. Project currents dilute waste and reduce parasites. That means improved fish health and less harm to the environment. The cylindrical steel enclosure stands about 223 feet or 68 meters high and measures about 361 feet or 110 meters in diameter. It can hold up to 1.5 million salmon at once, and it's designed to handle strong winds and waves. It stays steady in the open water. Its automated sensors track fish activity, water quality, and feeding, and artificial intelligence interprets this data to optimize feeding times, cut down on waste, and keep the fish healthy. By shifting the operations away from the coastal sites, Ocean Farm 1 has lowered disease spread and the risk of overcrowding. And this farm's steel enclosure also helps limit escapes, lessening any harm to the wild populations. Clean, flowing ocean currents mean fewer parasites and better water conditions. In turn, salmon have a more natural habitat that promotes faster growth and a better yield. While building a artificial reef that, rather than being created by a government organization, was instead built by a local diving community, transforming the once barren ocean floor into a thriving marine habitat. The reef's creation began in 2013, led by Temple Adventures, which is a scuba diving center in Pondicherry. The team wanted to deal with the lack of vibrant coral reefs in the region and to also help with marine conservation. And unlike natural coral reefs, which take hundreds of years to form, Temple Reef was developed using recycled materials like concrete blocks, discarded car parts, iron scraps, PVC pipes, and other eco-friendly structure. These materials were carefully placed on the seabed to provide a foundation for marine organisms to settle in and grow in a way that mimicked the complex structure of a natural reef. Over time, these structures have attracted a wide range of marine species, turning this reef into a fascinating underwater ecosystem. The reef sits at depths ranging between 60 to 100 feet, or about 18 to 30 meters, making it accessible. Beyond the ecological benefits, Temple Reef has also helped to develop sustainable diving tourism here in the region, which was once little known in the diving community and now attracts people from all over the world, showing that you can help the environment and support a tourism economy at the same time. Number 11. The Victoria Experimental Network Under the Sea. The Victoria Experimental Network Under the Sea, which is known as Venus for short, is an underwater observatory that's off the coast of British Columbia in Canada. Operated by Ocean Networks Canada, it's a subsea infrastructure that's been designed to collect real-time data from the ocean floor to help us improve our understanding of marine environments. Launched in 2006, Venus was one of the first ocean observatories of its kind. Traditional ocean research relied on temporary tools like ships and buoys, which only offered limited time-specific information. Venus, however, provides a permanent, cabled underwater network that allows continuous study how marine life adapts to waters like this. The Strait of Georgia, which is a busier waterway, was chosen for its interactions with human activities such as shipping, pollution, and fishing. Sensors monitor parameters like temperature, salinity, pressure, oxygen levels, and pH. And Venus also includes advanced imaging systems such as underwater cameras and hydrophones that capture visual and acoustic data. Since becoming operational, Venus has supported groundbreaking research on the impacts of any climate change. By monitoring changes in oxygen levels, water temperatures, and acidity, it provides important data for understanding ocean deoxygenation, warming, and acidification, which are three major consequences of climate change. This information is vital for predicting how marine ecosystems, fisheries, and coastal communities could become affected in the future. Number 10. The Viking Link. The Viking Link is an infrastructure project linking the electricity grids of the United Kingdom and Denmark with a high-voltage direct current, or AK, can flow back to Denmark. This HVDC subsea and underground system can carry up to 1.4 gigawatts of electricity, enough for around 1.4 million homes. It crosses the North Sea between a converter station near Bicker Fen in Lincolnshire, England, and another near Revsing in southern Jutland, Denmark. HVDC technology cuts down on energy losses over long distances. Creating such an extensive undersea link required advanced construction techniques. Crews surveyed the varied seabed, dealing with soft, silt, and rugged rock. Specialized vessels laid and buried the cable to protect it from damage by fishing nets and ship anchors. And environmental protection guided the route, sparing any sensitive areas and habitats from harm. Since completion, the Viking Link has boosted the energy security of both nations. By sharing power sources, they reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Their linked grids can handle shifts in supply and demand, especially when renewable output fluctuates. Today, this interconnector's 36-acre area between 1972 and 75. They bundled them with nylon and steel fasteners, expecting the tires to stay put and invite fish and coral. Before long, serious problems emerged. The fasteners corroded, freeing the tires to move in the ocean currents, storms, and hurricanes. The drifting tires scraped the seabed and damaged nearby coral systems. Now, unlike heavier materials like concrete or sunken vessels, these tires had smooth surfaces, which made it hard for corals to latch onto. The plan backfired, turning the area into a floating hazard rather than a thriving reef. By the early 2000s, Osborne Reef was seen as a cautionary tale. Environmental groups demanded action to remove the tires, but retrieval proved difficult because of their sheer number and how far they had spread. In 2007, a wide-scale cleanup began, led by the U.S. Army, Navy, and Coast Guard, alongside local agencies. Divers gathered tires into manageable bundles for shipment to onshore recycling centers. This massive operation cost millions of dollars and took years to complete. Despite the effort, proven materials that won't drift or decay in ways that hurt marine environments. Number 8. Project Natick. Project Natick is an experiment by Microsoft to place data centers underwater. It started in 2015 with Phase 1, when a single shipping container-sized pod was sunk off California in about 30 feet of water. Over 3 months, its servers stayed cool and stable. The enclosed design kept out dust and humidity, and the low ocean temperature helped with the heat management. This early test ended with no major issues, showing real promise for future larger-scale deployments. In 2018, Microsoft launched Phase 2 near the Orkney Islands in Scotland, submerging a bigger data center at 117 feet, or about 30 meters down. It held 864 servers, enough to store around 5 million movies. The Orkney site relied on wind and solar power, fitting Microsoft's goal to use cleaner energy. Across the 2 years, the underwater servers saw faster connections since the data traveled a shorter path. When the trial ended, Microsoft raised the Orkney data center to inspect it, and engineers found the setup had performed beyond expectations. There's still work to do before deciding on wider use of these modules, yet many see Phase 2 as a strong case for exploring underwater data centers further. The approach could reduce power consumption and free up land, all while allowing faster deployment of vital server infrastructure. Moving on to number 7, SOSUS. SOSUS, or Sound Surveillance System, is an underwater listening network created in the Cold War to detect and track submarines with sound. It began as a top-secret U.S. Navy project, but has since found uses in scientific research, especially for studying marine life. In the early 1950s, the threat of Soviet submarines pushed the U.S. Navy to invest in new detection methods. Ship-based sonar had a limited range due to complex ocean acoustics. SOSUS filled the vessel by its acoustic signature. This real-time awareness was essential during these periods, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis. The program's success stayed classified for decades, protecting the technological edge the U.S. had. Once global tensions eased up, the hydrophone networks were reassigned for science. They captured data on undersea earthquakes and other geological activity, and researchers also analyzed marine mammal calls, recording whale and dolphin sounds that carry for hundreds of miles. Because low-frequency audio crosses such long distances, SOSUS offered new ways to study ocean life. Though no longer shrouded in secrecy, SOSUS remains an iconic example of Cold War innovation. The system once aimed to guard against foreign threats. Now it helps researchers learn more about the deep ocean. By listening to the underwater realm, SOSUS shows how technology designed for defense can serve broader purposes when priorities change. Number 6. The Monterey Accelerated Research System Mars node on the seafloor in the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary at a depth of 2,900 feet, or about 890 meters. At the core of Mars is the seafloor node, which provides the power and two-way high-speed data communication to a series of scientific instruments. It supports multiple instruments at the same time, including sensors, cameras, and robotic systems, allowing researchers to monitor the ocean conditions continuously and conduct experiments in real time. The observatory supports a wide range of scientific studies, from basic oceanographic research to applied technology. It's been instrumental in studying physical processes like ocean currents, water temperature, salinity, and pressure, as well as tracking long-term changes in ocean conditions. This real-time data is hugely important for understanding the health of the ocean and its role in regulating the Earth's climate. Using high-resolution cameras and sensors connected to the Mars node, scientists can observe and analyze the behavior of deep-sea organisms such as fish, squid, and invertebrates. In their natural habitat, these observatories put the southern tip of the Iberian Peninsula. It's designed to improve marine ecosystems and support sustainable fishing practices. It has, unexpectedly, led to an international incident between the authorities of Gibraltar and neighboring Spain. The idea for the reef was put forward in 2013 by the government of Gibraltar, with the main objective of promoting marine biodiversity and restoring habitats that had been damaged by overfishing and human activity. The reef is made up of concrete blocks and prefabricated reef structures that were placed on the seabed within Gibraltar's waters. These structures provide shelter, breeding grounds, and feeding areas for marine life. The construction of this artificial reef was seen as a proactive step towards overcoming issues, particularly by protecting the seabed from illegal bottom trawling, which is a destructive fishing practice that damages both the natural and artificial habitats. By placing the reef in vulnerable areas, the concrete blocks physically prevent trawlers from operating, and therefore safeguard marine ecosystems. Species like sea bream, groupers, and crustaceans were seen using the reef as shelter and feeding grounds, and it now sends disruptions for those traveling between Spain and Gibraltar. And still, more than a decade later, it's still driving division between the two sides. Number 4. The Crete to Peloponnese Circuit 1. Crete, which is the largest island in Greece, has historically been reliant on local power generation through oil-fired power plants. Now, these plants are hugely expensive to operate, highly polluting, and often struggle to meet the island's growing energy demands. With Crete's location and its importance to Greece's tourism and economy, ensuring a stable and sustainable power supply was a national priority. The Greek government, along with independent power transmission operator, decided that it was a priority that the island was connected to the mainland's electricity grid as part of a wider energy reform. The Crete to Peloponnese Circuit 1 was the first phase of a larger interconnection plan that aimed to resolve their energy challenges, while also keeping with Greece's commitments to cut carbon emissions. Completed in 2022, the circuit is a high-voltage laying technology. Once laid, the cable was buried to protect and minimize the risk from any fishing activity, ship anchors, or natural disturbances. It is one of the longest and highest capacity cables of its type in the world, and since coming online, it's meant that Crete has been able to get rid of all of its oil-fired power plants, which has definitely reduced greenhouse gas emissions and improved air quality on the island. Number 3. The Aquarius Reef Base. The Aquarius Reef Base is the world's only operational underwater research laboratory, offering scientists an opportunity to study marine life and underwater ecosystems up close. Located around 5.5 miles or 8 kilometers off the coast of Key Largo in Florida, and at a depth of 62 feet or about 19 meters beneath the surface, it is a vital tool for oceanographic research. The base is essentially a habitat module that provides scientists with safe living and working space on the ocean floor. The structure itself measures 43 feet or 13 meters long and 9 feet or about 3 meters in diameter, looking like the idea of saturation diving, which allows aquanauts to remain underwater for days or weeks at a time without needing to decompress repeatedly. Researchers use the base to monitor reef health, study coral bleaching, analyze water quality, and study marine species behaviors in their natural environment. It's also used as a training facility for NASA astronauts. It's known as the NASA Extreme Environment Mission Ops. These training sessions prepare astronauts for the long-duration space missions by simulating the isolation, confined living, and operational challenges of space exploration. Astronauts practice extravehicular activities, develop teamwork skills, and adapt to working in a high-pressure, low-oxygen environment, which closely replicates the conditions of space. Number 2. Nord Stream pipelines. The Nord Stream pipelines link Russia to Germany across the Baltic Sea, carrying natural gas to Europe. They have been praised for economic gains, but also criticized for political, environmental, and security reasons. The system includes 2 pipelines, Nord Stream 1 and Nord along a similar path, but face sanctions and political pushback, leading to delays. After Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, its operation was paused under broader economic measures. For Germany and other Western European countries, these pipelines offered cheaper imports and steady gas supplies. Russia, meanwhile, cemented its standing as a major energy supplier. However, Eastern European nations objected, citing lost fees and diminished strategic leverage. Ukraine, once a key transit route, saw the pipeline as an intentional move to weaken its economy and influence in the region. Many also warned that depending too heavily on Russian gas could become a geopolitical risk. The United States imposed sanctions on Nord Stream 2, voicing concern about Moscow's growing hold over Europe's energy markets. Meanwhile, environmentalists objected to laying hundreds of miles of pipe along the Baltic Sea floor. They pointed to possible harm to marine habitats and water quality from the installation and gas leaks. In September of 2022, both pipelines suffered extensive damage from underwater blasts in what many suspected was sabotage. MeWe-3. CMeWe-3 is short for the Southeast Asia, Middle East, Western Europe 3 submarine communications cable system. It's a large subsea cable that links multiple regions. Launched in 2000, it stretches about 24,200 miles, or 39,000 kilometers. This network has boosted connectivity by supporting faster data, voice, and internet services across continents. It was the 3rd project in the CMeWe series, created by a global consortium of 92 telecom operators, including Telecom Italia Sparkle, Singtel, and France Telecom. They needed a high-capacity route to handle growing data demands between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. This cable uses fiber optic lines with wavelength division multiplexing, which lets multiple data streams run over a single fiber. At launch, it had a design capacity of 480 gigabits per second. That's a major upgrade for the early 2000s. CMeWe-3 spans from Germany and Western Europe to Japan and Australia in the Asia-Pacific region, such as fishing and anchoring can damage cables. Specialized ships have to locate and repair the affected segments, which take coordinated efforts among operators spread across many nations. While recent systems offer higher speeds and greater bandwidth, CMeWe-3 marked a turning point in long-distance communication. By linking areas that once lacked modern connectivity, it spurred growth in commerce, education, and digital development. Even though more advanced cables have since been deployed, CMeWe-3 remains active, providing backup to newer networks. Its story shows how subsea cables can reshape communication by crossing continents on the ocean floor. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time. Thank you to our channel members.